Goeiedag, ik ben Michiel Frakkers, ik ben de dagvoorzitter. Ik ben niet Paul Witteman of een andere journalist, maar ik ben ondernemer. Het zou als voordeel moeten hebben dat ik soms een relevante vraag zou kunnen stellen. Ik zou er niet op gokken, maar dat zou kunnen. Het nadeel is dat ik geen journalist ben, dat ik af en toe waarschijnlijk te snel praat... of binnensmonds of in dommel, zou kunnen als het saai wordt. Maar dat verwachten we niet. Vandaag als eerste keynote speaker hebben wij Micheal Jones. Hij is Chief Technology Officer van Google Earth. Google heeft een bedrijf dat heet Keyhole gekocht, waarvan Micheal de medeoprichter was. Sinds deze week zijn de satellietbeelden van heel Nederland ook beschikbaar op Google Earth, met uitzondering van een paar strategische gebieden zoals het Paleis van de Koningin en dat soort dingen, die zijn zwart gemaakt. Maar heel Nederland is nu in satellietbeelden beschikbaar van Google Earth en niet meer alleen de grote steden zoals voorheen. Micheal is iemand die een enorm heel grote visie heeft over hoe je geografische informatie, zoals kaarten, kan koppelen aan informatie aan inhoudelijke informatie. Dus stel, hij zagen jullie misschien aan het begin, klikten we op wat beelden van New York, hij klikte op Ellis Island. En op dat moment zou verschijnen dan informatie van National Geographic met hoe de immigranten zijn binnengekomen op Ellis Island. Klik je dan door op de tekst bij Ellis Island, ga je door naar Rotterdam, voor de immigranten die uit Nederland kwamen, waar wij nu staan. En hij heeft een heel uitgebreid beeld over hoe je dus geografische informatie kan koppelen aan statische informatie, zoals je die nu ziet, beschikbaar via het reguliere Google Search Engine. Micheal zat voordat hij Keyhole startte en verkocht aan Google, onder andere bij Silicon Graphics. Hij heeft ook een hele andere aparte, bijzondere achtergrond. Ik vroeg hem namelijk, heb je nog iets anders bijzonders over jezelf te zeggen dat ik kan vertellen bij de introductie? En toen keek hij me aan, toen zei hij, I once danced with Michael Jackson. Maar daar gaat hij het nu niet over hebben. Dit is een van de meest bijzondere technologen van onze tijd. Dit is Micheal Jones van Google Earth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. I'm going to speak to you very quickly today. I have a great deal of material to cover. There are several topics for today. One is basically what is changing in geospatial information, both from a technology standpoint and the way it's being used around the world. That's one thing I want to tell you about. I'd like to tell you a little bit about why that's happening, why that's so important, why something new can have such a sudden effect. Also, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some changes in our product line, and then a few announcements for you and a demonstration. So all of that in a very short period of time, so I need you to listen very quickly. I will talk quickly, and you listen quickly. So today I'm going to talk on a strange topic, which is called computer science fiction, which doesn't sound like it's about geography, but in fact it's everything to do with geography. I'd like to explain that to you. Basically, the words in the phrase computer science fiction are all very important. So I think we all know what a computer is, but in fact, maybe we don't. So when I think of a computer, historically, I think of something like this. This man is Konrad Zuse. He built really the first computer. It was a floating point computer. It's a German man. Does anybody know Konrad Zuse? Anybody? Okay, you should learn. Okay. So the best thing about this is he built the world's first computer, this big picture on the left, and the great thing is that's in his parents' living room when he was a grad student. So his parents were loving engineer student parents. So that's what I think of as a computer, but that's not what a computer is anymore. That's not a computer. What's a computer now is the internet. So if you have a computer that doesn't talk to other computers, it seems almost useless. It's like having the only cell phone in the world, right? So what you want is a computer now is a networked thing. It's the island that has a bridge between it to other islands. So that's very important. That's changed in the last few years. The next thing is about the idea of computer science. Computer science is not the science of building computers, it's the science of using them wisely, structurally organizing information so it can actually be processed properly and appropriately. That's not a new idea. In fact, if you were to go to Russia, you could find this stamp This is Mr. Al-Khwarizmi, from whom the name algorithm comes. He had the first person to write down a standard practice for solving a problem. He's a brilliant man of the past, Arab man. So that computer science has become, in the case of Google and other companies like Google, really the focus has become dealing with hundreds of thousands of computers networked to operate on single problems in efficient ways with 100% reliability around the world with huge networks. That's actually a big problem, and that's an area, active area of computer science. The other area I want to talk about in my title is actual science itself. Science is the study of fact and the analysis of fact, and the extrapolation from fact. And often the understanding of fact is not so simple. It's pretty easy to measure something. It's very hard to know what it means. And so often understanding has to do with looking at information in context. So here we see temperature, but the temperature is being processed to show changes in temperature. And so now we can watch gradients. So we have an understanding of the hot is going this way and the cold is going that way. That's different than measuring just the temperature. That information is embedded in the temperature, but it's a higher level of understanding of the temperature. So our goal always is to understand more from what we've already measured, to measure properly, to display properly, to understand, and then to interpret in a way that's useful. The next thing I talk about is science fiction. It's a favorite topic for me because it is a way to separate concepts from everyday understanding of those concepts. You can talk about marriage without talking about real marriage. You can talk about pizza without talking about real pizza. You know, it could be some kind of alien pizza or something. So in science fiction, a typical theme is that people will travel to some future society and they'll find some planet or some ring world, in the case of Ring World by Larry Niven, and they will be totally mystified, the story, people's story. What does it all mean? How does it work? And eventually they will find what they call the map room. And they can see this room and they can see how it all connects. And then in the stories usually, everything is great. They know where to go, how to turn the power on, how to make things work. And so I've always wanted to build basically that map room, that science fiction map room for the Earth. I mean, we live here, right? So we don't have to go to space to do this. We can do that here. So in particular, when I was a child, there was a TV show called Star Trek, the first one. And Mr. Spock, who's my hero, you know, they would go down to the planet, and he would have this box. It was called the tricorder. And he would, the captain, Kirk, would say, oh, what's going on? And Mr. Spock would say, let me check. And he would pull this thing out, and he would kind of look around. And he would say, Captain, there are 3 life forms behind that rock, right? That is wonderful. That's kind of like saying, Captain, the Starbucks is on the left, you know? It's the same kind of thing. Where's the local information, even though we just got here? And our goal is to build something like that. And I'll show you that. The unfortunate thing is that having all the information together, all the knowledge, all the information presented to you does not make you understand. And that takes us into the world of fiction. Fiction is willful, perhaps, distortion of the truth or abandonment of truth. It's very important when you have data to interpret it properly. And one of the most important parts about that is, at least in American courts, when we go to testify in court and we swear to tell the truth, we actually have to swear to 3 things. 1 is to tell the truth. 2 is to tell the whole truth. And 3 is to tell nothing but the truth. Okay? So you don't get a passing grade in court unless you tell the truth completely, not some true, some lie, but most importantly of all, the whole truth. Most stories that you would tell somebody, if you tell them part of the story, they'll understand a different story, right? Always when there's a misunderstanding between people, then it's not like they lied to you usually, it's that they just didn't tell you everything. Like it happened last year, it happened before I was married, or whatever it was. So the whole truth is very important. And so I want to talk to you about the whole truth. And in particular, I want to show you an example. This is a Google Earth screenshot, just a little movie I made from the computer, flying to Beirut, which is a fabulous tourist city in the Middle East. And right now, this is aerial photography from a few weeks ago. Today it looks like this, in fact. So you may have heard about the war over there and the fighting. Well, in the newspaper, you can see a little picture, you know, of a building, a woman in front of the building saying, oh, my building is destroyed. But that's actually what it looks like. And so let me show you how it used to look. It didn't always look that way. About a month ago, 2 months ago, it looked like that. Okay? Now, to me, it's very powerful to see that. You think, oh, look at the destruction. Imagine the families and children. You know, so you look at that, And you almost hate whoever did that. But the truth is that if you look at the edge of the picture, there's buildings that are not bombed, and in the middle, the buildings are bombed. If you go back about 2 months, you'll notice that around the area where the perimeter is, between the bombed and the not bombed, that's where the armored barricades were that define the edge of the Hezbollah compound in South Beirut. Inside that were people with machine guns that would shoot you if you tried to come inside. Okay? So I'm not offering any apologies, but I just point out that isn't obvious from this picture. Okay? So I talked to you about the whole truth. It's much more powerful to see this picture, but it could be used by either side or any side to tell part of the story. Right? It's very important. Okay, there are women and children in there, at least there used to be, and it was a military compound. That's the whole story. Okay. So please think about that. Okay. Now, our mission at Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Every single thing we do is about that. Whenever you read a story about us and it doesn't match that, then it's an untrue story. Everything we do is about that. So organizing, you probably know about that. You go to Google search and you type in something and it tells you all the world's information about that. We do it in different languages, different sources. Now, the problem is some information isn't understandable just with a list of information. Like if I asked you for a list of tram stops in Rotterdam, I could print out addresses of them, and that's useful. That's all the information. But that really wouldn't tell a visitor which one's closest. Or maybe where the trams are if I show you a map with the stops, where you are, the times to walk, and then the trams moving, with little green, which ones are close you can make in time, that would be useful, right? So sometimes you need to provide geographic information as a context to understand the extra information that you're providing. And to do that for the world, Google works with us, Google Earth and Google Maps. And so that's our job, is to provide that context. This is a United States president and others trying to solve the Katrina problem. This is an example of that. So we have a page browser, which is what you call a web browser. It's a connected web of pages all around the world. You can click and go to other pages. There's a rectangle you can drive around on the page, sort of like a newspaper through a porthole. Well, on the right, you see Earth. It's a planet browser, an Earth browser. It's got a porthole. That's Google Earth, and you can fly around the Earth. And then you see information inside there. So one web browser, you see page data. One, you see Earth data. Now, it's not data about the Earth, and it's not data about pages. The page in a web browser could be eBay, it could be a movie, it could be anything. But the point is that your browser takes you from page to page. On the Earth, it takes you from place to place. What you see in there may be data on top of that. I'll show you examples of that in just a few minutes. Now, do you know who this man is? Anybody? Shame on you. This is Charles Koopmans. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He's a famous economist, and he's one of my heroes. And what he did was, at the end of his life, or toward the end of his life, he wrote books about being smart, basically. My life in science, what did I do? And he analyzed the role of tools and problems. And for example, there's a policeman and there's criminals. And they need each other in a way, right? They're two parts of a complete system. And problems and tools go together. And what Koopmans figured out was that tools have a life of their own. Once you build a great tool, people start using it. People start using it for the wrong things. It changes everything. So what he said was that a good tool has a life of its own. It can come to dominate an entire period or school of thought. So examples would be the internet is a tool like that, the telephone's a tool like that, shipping is a tool like that. Okay, so but most importantly to me is that since humans are smart and won't attempt things that are certain to fail, even technology startup companies, they won't do things they know are going to fail, then what happens is there are things that look like they probably won't work. People won't do them. But if you build a tool that makes it look like that might work, people will try. So if you fail to build a tool that makes something seem possible, there are millions of people in the world, thousands, I don't know number, who will not benefit from the success that would have happened had you built that tool. An example would be if there were no boats, people would just stand at the edge of the ocean, just look off at the ocean. And they wouldn't think, I will just voyage across the ocean, I'll swim. They would know better. And they wouldn't necessarily say, I want to go to that island, I will invent the boat. But if you had a boat, they would say, hey, there's a boat, there's an island, let's go see what's out there, right? So tools have that role of transforming everyday life.
And what's important about that is once you get a tool and you understand how to use it, then you start realizing all the things that could be changed in the world with that tool. Okay? Like a tourist sometimes with the cameras, you think, well, if there wasn't a camera, they wouldn't have come here. Now, for Google, we had to solve this problem, how to represent the world's information spatially. We did it in basically two ways. One is inside a web browser, and that web browser can be on a mobile phone or on a computer. Another is in a standalone application that's more powerful, but means you have to download it. And that's the two kind of routes we've taken. For the web version, it's called Google Maps. And we have maps in the United States, we have maps in Japan, in London, we have maps in Germany, in France. We have maps in a lot of countries, and I want you to know that we work very hard to get maps and local data in every country. And usually the way that works is we get all the imagery data first, and then we announce local map coverage. Now, something exciting happened that I didn't expect. It probably was more exciting for me than for you. Very strange. Okay. Oh, I know what happened. I'm sorry. I did it. It's my fault. This is a map of Japan. And I just launched this is Google Japanese Maps. You'll notice that they're in Japanese, right? That's because Japanese people live in Japan, right? So part of us doing maps in a local country is to make all the data be local, all the restaurant listings, all the Yellow Pages information. Local to us means local to you. So that's what that means. Let me find this again and click elsewhere. Here's an example of routing. We do traffic routing. We do it in a variety of languages. English, French, German, Italian, Spanish. Announcing today, we support Japanese in Google Earth. It's launched today. The new version of Google Earth is on the website right now that supports full Japanese support, Japanese restaurants, and it's different hierarchy. So you can search for restaurants, you get sushi, sashimi, yakitori. You know, you get to choose the kind of restaurants that make sense in Japan as opposed to making sense in here, for example. So another thing we have is we have the Maps API. And the Maps API is extremely important and is largely what's relevant maybe here. There's some information that Google can't organize for the world because we don't have the data and we can't get it. And there's a lot of information like that. So an example would be this gentleman right here. Let's say that when he's not being a famous entrepreneur, he's plays in clubs, plays the guitar in the clubs. Okay? You're dancing? Exotic dancing in clubs. And I have a friend you should meet. And he does exotic dancing in clubs, and he's going to be appearing in different clubs, and you want to go see him. Well, I don't know where to buy the data, what clubs he's going to be in. But he knows, because he's gone, his agent has gone and set him up in different clubs. So what we do is we take all of Google Maps infrastructure and give it to him. So on his website, he can put a map that shows where his club performances are going to be. And my advice is that you don't miss those. So go check out his website and check out his next dance. But the point is, we could never get that data, so we have to provide the tools to people that have the data. So sometimes we gather data and we present it to the world. Sometimes we present the tools to the world and they put the data on top of that and share it with the rest of the world. Those are two roles that we have. And Maps API is the way we do that. Interestingly enough, in the first 12 months, the Maps API was used to build 30,000 websites around the world that are mapping-centric. Well, that's important. So if you were to say, well, who does computer mapping? Well, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, you know, whoever, Map24, Get Mapping, Mappion. So you have a list of like 20 companies. So there are 30,020 mapping websites, and 30,001 of them powered by Google. Okay? So that's the power of the mapping API. Now, people talk about it on the web, about 50 million people. People write about it in blogs, about 130,000 people. So they've noticed it. The one thing we did wrong or didn't think to do is that we didn't provide for businesses who wanted to provide mapping on their business inside their firewall in a secure environment where the public couldn't get to it. The license of Google Maps is free, but it's only for public use. If you want to do private use, we didn't have an answer for that, and now we do. We have an enterprise license for Google Maps where businesses can build map sites that operate inside their business for, you know, secret locations for their real estate planning or business planning, and that's become very popular. We also built a product called Google Earth, most of which I'm going to explain by demonstration. But basically, it's the picture of the whole world, information about the world, ability to search all the web information, and plus community information on top of that, which hopefully you've seen. We announced a few months ago Google Earth 4, which is quite different. It has important new things to it. One, it's in multiple languages. Another is that it runs on Linux. Runs on Macintosh, Intel-based Macintoshes, of course, PowerPC Mac and Windows from before. And we have some important things in data, and we just announced a new version of this. We haven't announced it, so I'm announcing it now. There's a new version of this that just went live just before this show. So if you go to the website and download earth.google.com, you'll get a new version of Google Earth, and it has time as the new fourth dimension of browsing. It's quite impressive. I'll show it to you. We also have a number I can share with you, although we normally can't, is that in the first 12 months, 100 million different people downloaded, installed, and started using Google Earth. Okay? So there's 100 million people now who are browsing the world and seeing it, zooming in and seeing things. You may have noticed in the last few days on either the newspaper, the radio, or television here in the Netherlands, discussions of Google Earth has high-resolution data for the whole country. Have you heard that? Anybody? Somebody? Some people. Okay. So that just shows you the ineffectiveness of old media. So the point isn't that we have it, the point is that you would want to see it because it's your house. Everybody has a house, wherever it is, and they want to see their house. They want to see their parents' house. They want to see where they went to school. They want to see where they got their first kiss. You know, those places that we kind of understand the world that way, and then we work our way out and see the rest of the world. That's very, very important. So I'm going to quickly show you something else. We have a community of users who share things about the world. So I would say, oh, I went to this tomb. This is Humayun's tomb in Delhi. I went there, I took a picture, and I posted that on top of the place on the earth where his tomb is. So then people can see what it looks like. Okay? That's me taking travel pictures, but this is even better. This is a man in the United States who robbed a bank and was captured on the security camera. Then he was arrested and convicted. He went to prison. Well, in prison, they have a program for inmates to learn work skills, and so that he has a computer he can use. And so he installed Google Earth, and he posted pictures of the bank he robbed. Okay? So this is about 100 million people. Some of the last million of those people are pretty questionable people, I think. People do all kinds of things, and I'll go into that later. Point is, there's millions of places that people have shared. The thing that they couldn't share until Google Earth 4 is they couldn't share the actual places where they lived. So what we've done is we've bought a company called SketchUp, made that available to people for free, so regular people can model objects around the world and share them and fly to them. And you can search for those by flying on the Earth and seeing them. And I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Because you're a nice audience and you deserve this. Okay. Does that look like the Schiphol Airport? Maybe a little bit. KLM airplanes, 747s. Okay. Well, this is what high-resolution data is all about. Actually, it's not Schiphol. What it is it's the Madura Dam. So these are people. See, there's a lady and a baby, and there's a shadow of these people standing there. So this is something small, right? That you almost can't tell the scale because you don't have the context. But if you zoom out a little bit, so you can see these really big cars over here. See? Right? So here we're at Rotterdam, so we have the famous gates right here, right? Open up and flood. The Madura Dam and Google Earth have a lot in common. It's trying to understand your world in a way that you can deal with it. You can't really cover the world. It's too big. You can't go everywhere, even if you had all the time in the world. It's just too big. So this is a way to go and take children and say, see, this is your country. This is the parts of our life that you are going to inherit. Well, Google Earth is a way to say, this is your planet. There's a way you can inherit some things. And so I want to show you a couple of those things real quickly. So you may have noticed that whenever you use Google Earth and you go somewhere new, it flies up and over and down. That's on purpose. We force you to have context everywhere you go to learn about the world. So this is Lebanon and Israel. What was interesting is during this armed conflict, people who use Google Earth were posting every day, every time a bomb came in, a rocket came into Israel, or an airplane dropped a bomb in Lebanon. And people would say, oh yes, this was down the street from me, Bob's barbershop got blown up. So actually people blogging, geoblogging about the war that is destroying their world as it happens. So that's an interesting change we've seen in the last little year here. I find that both interesting and disquieting. I'd also like to show you quickly China. So China's a great place. China's a big country. There are things in the middle of China that you may never have seen And so in particular, if we go to sort of in the middle here, there's a desert. In the middle of the desert, there's an army base. And the army base, there's a big security fence around it. And if you look inside that, what there is basically a big model of some ground. So it's sort of like the low-tech version of Google Earth. See, it's got rivers and valleys and hills, and they're 3D. It's pretty amazing. So what's interesting is if you take a screenshot of that and then fly up and look for a place in China where that might be, it turns out you can find a place where that would be. And where that is right here on the border between India, China, and Pakistan, where there's a big military argument about who owns what. So if we go down there, what you find out is that this big, kilometer by kilometer pseudo-terrain is actually a perfect model of this part of the world. And if I go here and show you this, let's see. Let's just take that and then fade that out. See, it matches perfectly. See the rivers and the mountains? So it's like a scale model of this part of the world that's actually in the middle of the desert. I think that's the kind of thing that you probably didn't see on your tourist trip to China. I've got so much to show you, and I can't, just from a time standpoint. But let's take a look at this. So there are airplanes in the air all the time. They report their information to aviation authorities. These purple lines here, these are all the airplanes in the world that are currently headed for the Los Angeles airport. Okay? It's kind of late at night, and so there are not many planes. But if we click on these, each plane, you get its altitude, its speed, and so forth. So in the middle of the day, you see hundreds of planes converging, and as you watch, they update their position. So Google Earth is able to go out and get data and bring it back, and people use this kind of information to get and capture real-time evolving information and share that. And the last thing I'm going to show you is we work with partners like National Geographic Magazine who go around the world, they get pictures, they geocode those pictures perfectly with GPS, and then what happens is, as you fly somewhere and the network, somebody's using their broadband, their wireless network. Come on, network. Okay, I have slow networking, so maybe they pulled my network cable out. Anyway, well, the network's just not good here. So, but the idea is National Geographic has hundreds of thousands of stories, pictures of places on the world, and we have those embedded in Google Earth, and you can see those. And probably the easiest way to see that is to turn on the featured content. Every one of these yellow squares is a National Geographic story. And you can click on the world to have the world tell you about itself. So our goal in this is to make an autobiographical planet. Work with museums around the world, magazines around the world, newspapers around the world to describe the place they know efficiently, so you can go there as a tourist or visitor and learn about the people and their culture. That's what we're trying to do, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I think we're going to have two questions, just two questions from people in the audience. So if I'm looking for Kim, the girl with the microphone, to go through the questions. Any questions here from the audience? Oh, come forward. Can you guys, kan iemand zijn hand opsteken als hij een vraag wil stellen? Ik kan het niet zien. Sorry, daar. Kim? Deze. Oh, er komt één meneer achter. Hallo Kim. Kan jij daar naartoe lopen met de microfoon? Oh, die gaat onderweg. Dank je. Ik kijk tegen de lamp in, dus het enige wat ik zie.
Ja.
Eerst even graag zeggen wie. Please state your name and your company, so we can know where you're coming from.
Okay, my name is Vincent Everts. I have a company called PC Zapper. I have a question about Google Earth. It's the most wonderful user interface in geodata. Google is always fantastic in creating something which everybody uses and then has a brilliant advertising model so we can benefit even more to look for things. So is it going to be integrated in AdWords so we can get relevant commercial information and use it for distribution purposes?
Oh, it already is. It's just that we did it in such a subtle way you couldn't tell. Okay, that's why I'm here. So let me show you that. So this isn't it. I just happened to click on this. These are 3D buildings that people have modeled and shared on their own. So right across the river from us. So here we are. There's the prison, and there's the baseball stadium, and somebody just modeled that, maybe a baseball player, and posted that to the world. So, and if you go there, it's textured in 3D and so forth. Okay, see the people, very popular. Okay, that's part of the truth, right? Okay, now, let me go to New York City. I'll show you this. So I go to New York City, my New York. So for example, go to New York City, and then what you do in Google Earth is you don't just fly to places. Maybe you fly to places for fun, but up here at the top, it says find a business. So if you go to New York City, not just because you want to go to New York City, but because you're actually looking for a business, what you could do is, this is pretty simple. Oh, I've got computer problems, so maybe you're not going to see that. Let me just tell you how it works. So you click on find a business, and you say, in this area, I'm looking for a shoe store. And then it'll show you all the shoe stores that are in the yellow pages, all the businesses we know about. But if there are some people that have taken out ads that say when people click on shoe store in New York City, tell them about my store, then we can show an ad at the bottom of that. So you get the yellow pages listing, and then you get the other ad. So it's in blue, just like on the side of Google search. And it's there. It's just so subtle, you don't notice it. It's like, well, I was searching for shoes. There's some shoes. Oh, there's a special shoe discount store. I'll click on that. It works pretty well. People use it every day, every second.
Laatste vraag. Ja, sorry, tweede vraag en laatste vraag. Iemand? Geen vragen. It's interesting. No other questions.
No question. No question.
Oh, there's somebody in the back there.
No interest. No
All the way in the back in the last row. I think they're intimidated.
No, please ask a question. You must have some question. I didn't say everything. Here's a question.
Oh, somebody's in the back, so that's the final question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Keith Wallace, Lunatech Research and Linlin. You talked a lot about the world putting in information, something that you can use, but who has ownership of that information? Is it available to the world or only to Google and their partners?
Okay, so that's a good question. So the question is, where does the information reside? So hopefully you can look at that while we're talking. So if you build a website for the world, Google indexes it, and it helps people find your website. We don't take your website. We just tell people how to find it. So in the same way, Google Earth isn't like the Maps API where you build your own website. Google Earth is one world browser, like the Google search is one information browser. You use Google Earth to find other people's information. So when people post their house, their building, their business, descriptions of world-changing events, information about earthquakes, what you'll find is that then everyone can see that on Google Earth on their computer. So what you do is you post information that you want to share. If you want to sell information, you make it available only through secure HTTP. But basically, everyone who uses Google Earth can get to all the information. It never really comes to us. The only information that we have is our map information, like the mountain heights and the valley depth, the state of the seas, that kind of imagery. But the actual data that goes on top of that, that comes from the world. That's not our data. So we're actually a referencer of information and a viewing environment for it, but we're not actually the owner of the information. Okay, does that answer the question, I hope?
We have to close here
Okay,
right now.
thank you very much.
1 second. I just want to say that one of the great privileges of doing this job actually is getting to meet guys like Michael and he can talk for hours, and it never got boring. We actually did last night.
Well, we were drinking.
And we were drinking. Okay, that helps. Which really made this morning a lot more difficult. But still, it's a great pleasure and honor to have today Micheal Jones, and I'd like a great big hand for him.
Thank you.